Welcome to the Changing Earth podcast with Sarah F. Hathaway, blending survival, fiction, and fact to bring you entertaining education that'll help you dream, survive, and thrive. And now, here's your host, Sarah F. Hathaway.
Hello, welcome back to the Changing Earth podcast. This is episode number 21. And I have a little bit of business to take care of first on this episode. I wanted to give a shout out. As many of you know, I tend to lean towards the preparedness side of life. So what I actually do is I record my podcast a couple weeks early so that if something were to happen, my son were to get sick, or we were to have emergency, I would have content to provide for you guys each week. So I'm a few weeks ahead of time, and this week I was tickled silly because in a recent interview that Dale and Lisa did over on the Survivalist Prepper podcast, they gave me a shout out over on the Contra Radio interview with John Jeffers. So I was super honored to hear them give me the shout out while they were doing an interview over there on that show. And also, I've got to give a shout out to Toby and Sticks over at the Armed Squirrels Project. Love both of those podcasts. Dale and Lisa do a great survivalist show about all kinds of topics you could possibly think of. So it's a great show. They have tinfoil hat time at the end where you get to hear some cool conspiracy theory. And then Toby and Sticks are ripping it up with the podcast on shooting. And so I always have a lot of fun listening to their show. And they also do a really cool bi-monthly shooting contest that you can get involved with. And the one this time was really challenging. It was with trying to put out a flame on a candle and trying to hit the cigarette out of somebody's mouth. So you're not physically doing it. It's a target that you print out, and then you get to do the challenge. So those are really cool and a lot of fun. And I hope to get the time to get involved in that pretty soon. So I wanted to give a shout out to both of those podcasts and all of those individuals because every time I'm listening to your podcast and I hear the shout out, I just get tickled silly. So you know I'm blushing over here on this end. So in the day after disaster story last week, Erica and Vince were finally reunited and they got to have a night together. So today they're going for a walk so that they can get their minds together back in sync. She can find out what happened to him. He can let her know, all kinds of cool stuff. I don't want to get too into it because we're going to experience that in the story. But they walk through an old residential area where it was just houses that were, affected by the earthquake, burned out. So today I have Lisa Bedford, the survivalist mom, here to discuss things that we might want to salvage from these buildings and just salvaging in general. And then also an untapped, idea is the old gardens that would be in existence. So that would be a great area to just harvest seeds from. So she's here to talk to us today about those possibilities. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into the day after disaster story. Day After Disaster by Sarah F. Hathaway, Chapter 21. Erica and Vince woke up to the bouncing of their two children. The children had gotten up early and couldn't help but come in and bombard their mom and dad with hugs and kisses. Star was fitting right in as one of the family. Her leg was still very painful from the bullet that had grazed her delicate skin, but she was tough, and she didn't let it slow her down. Erica was elated to be woken up by the kids. She snuggled them in tight and hugged them until she thought they would explode. The four of them reveled in the moment of intense love. She ran her hand through Dex's blonde hair and savored the scent of his body. None of them wanted to face the harsh reality that awaited them outside the tent. They could hear the hustle and bustle of people waking up and trying to find something to eat. The feast that they had enjoyed the night before was not a normal occurrence since the Great Quake. Food was in very high demand. but everyone had felt obliged to contribute to Erica's bounty of horse meat that she had brought. "Let's just get out of here today and have one more day of fun before we have to decide what to do with ourselves now," Vince said flatly to Erica. "I'm down. I haven't had any thought on my mind besides finding you, and now that I have, I wouldn't mind some calmness." Erica agreed with Vince. She just wasn't ready to face reality now that she had finally found Vince. "I know a great place we can walk to from here. It's a rock that was sheared off in the quake, and you can look out over the canyon. I spent many a day sitting there hoping I would see you coming up the canyon," Vince said with a sad look in his eyes. "Well, I'm here now, so let's go enjoy it together." Erica's eyes bounced as she started to get her things together. "We should let Greg know where we're going in case there's an emergency or something." Vince had more time to adapt to this world and working in a tight-knit community. Erica had been used to just taking care of Star and herself. "Good idea. We shouldn't be too long, though. We need to help out with the camp and figure out what we're going to do. I need to go find my mom, too." Erica started to stammer with her mind full of plans. "Slow down, babe. Your mom is alive and well. She is down in the Lotus camp. I've already seen her. Let's just enjoy the day. All our problems will be here when we get back. Trust me," Vince said with a certainty in his voice. He needed a calm day and wanted Erica all to himself. "You've seen her and she's alive? Well, that makes me feel better. You're probably right. Let's get moving so we don't get stuck doing projects here." Erica was feeling antsy now after her morning of lazy snuggling. She wanted to get moving and do something. "I know I'm right," Vince said, hugging her tightly. "What do you want me to pack up?" Star asked Erica, trying to be as helpful as possible. "We're traveling lightly today, Star, so don't worry about packing. Just go rest until we're ready to go," Erica replied. She was concerned about Star's leg and didn't want her to overwork it. "We'll just bring some of that dried horse meat to munch on." "G-Man found me a good walking stick to lean on yesterday, so I'll go get that, and Dexter and I will meet you guys outside." Star had taken over watching out for Dexter. She just wanted to feel useful. She loved Erica so much for rescuing her that she was more than ready to accept her new family as her own. Caring for Dexter was a job that needed to be done constantly, and she knew she could fill that role perfectly. "Okay, we'll be out in a second," Vince replied. As the kids left, he grabbed Erica and started to fondle her softly. "Knock it off, you silly man," Erica jested. "I can't help it. You're so beautiful and I miss you so much. I don't think I'll ever be able to get enough." Vince had a handful of her breast. "Well, we don't have time for that now," Erica said with her eyes full of love. "The kids will be waiting, and the whole camp will hear us." "Oh, let them hear. I just want my beautiful woman." Vince grabbed Erica and held her close. He gave her a soft kiss, and they embraced. The energy between them was palpable, and it swirled around them. "Okay, we need to go," Erica said, forcing herself away from him. She was trying to focus on the task at hand and said lightly, changing the subject, "I think we'll take Kit with us. We may be able to find some grass for him to munch on along the way." "Good idea. There's not much grass left around camp, but the land is rebounding between here and the Georgetown River camp," Vince replied. The two exited the tent and greeted the people that were still hanging around the smoldering fire. Most of the camp was off helping accomplish one task or another. Everyone pitched in readily to help ensure the community's survival. Joan was still there cleaning up the morning mess. "Where are you guys headed?" she asked, noticing that they were carrying packs. "We're going for a little hike so we can do some much-needed catching up," Erica responded with a wink. "Have you seen Greg around this morning?" "Yeah, he's over organizing some supplies," replied Joan. "That guy has all the hookups. He has stacked up all kinds of goodies." "Yeah, he has always been a rather resourceful individual, to say the least. Would you let him know where we are when you see him, and let him know we should be back within a couple of hours?" Erica didn't want to waste any time traipsing through the whole camp. "Sure, no problem. Do you guys need anything to eat? I think I can still salvage a little food from breakfast," Joan wondered. "No, we never were very big breakfast eaters, and with so little food around, I don't know why we should start now," Erica answered with a sarcastic grin. The couple walked over and put the leather bridle on Kit. They didn't bother with the saddle because they were having a leisurely day. Ripper ran about their feet, happily dancing with the excitement of a new adventure. Since Erica had returned to the family, he had rarely left her side. They used to joke about him being her shadow, and he instantly returned to his old routine upon her arrival. Dexter and Star were not far behind Ripper, and Erica convinced the kids to ride bareback on the horse. Erica thought it would be fun for them, but also Star would not stress her wound. Vince told her it was so that Dexter would not tire too quickly, and Star felt honored to be playing a part in the family game. As they left, Erica was shocked at the landscape. This area was a place she had known so well. It had glistened with green grass during the winter months when the weeds would grow high, and then in the summer, it would turn golden as the sun sucked the life from the growth. The trees had grown tall and proud, and cherry trees dotted the landscape. It was her home, and now it felt completely foreign. The earthquake had not been kind to the region. Great scars ripped through the ground, and what had not been destroyed by the shifting ground was burned in the fire that had smothered the area. They walked along quietly. Erica was trying to take it all in. The kids engaged in a quiet chatter about games they had been playing with the other kids in the camp. Vince could see the sense of awe in Erica's quiet gaze. He decided he would have plenty of time to explain it all when they stopped. He just wanted to hold her hand and be near her. Many days he had wondered if he would ever walk along with her again, and now here she was, glowing with curiosity. It took them a couple of hours to reach the space that Vince had spoken of. It was a rock outcropping that used to sit next to the lake. Since the dam had broken and the river had returned to its natural state, and now overlooked the canyon and river once again. The old Auburn River camp was just barely visible from here if you knew where to look. An individual on watch had seen the explosion the day Erica had fled, while Vince had no idea at that point what had happened down there and that his wife had been involved in the activity. Everyone was scrambling for survival, and approaching the other camps, especially one in obvious turmoil, was not exactly a great idea. So the lookout had watched with curiosity and relayed the story when he returned to the Georgetown River camp. The lookout space itself sat in the remains of a subdivision that used to dominate the area. Now it was charred shells of homes that used to house a vibrant community. Survivors in the area had pilfered the remnants months ago, and the silence was eerie. Erica recognized where they were. It used to be the backyard of one of their friends' houses. Great big pine trees and pomegranate trees had once stood here. Now it was just charred remains. "Oh my gosh, baby, this was Jean and Barb's house," Erica exclaimed, shocked at the current state of the property. "Yeah, it was. Now it's their grave," Vince said solemnly. "They never made it out. It's a good lookout point, though, so it's well used now. You can see a lot of the canyon from here, just like it was before they put the lake in. But you know, Erica, a lot of people didn't survive, so let's not think about that now. Actually, it's better to just not think about that at all." Vince was desperately trying to avoid the negatives. He had been immersed in this desperate world and was accustomed to stepping over the world of the past, trying to remake some kind of a future. Today was not about that. It was about spending time together, thinking positively, and enjoying the precious time together as a family. Nearby there was a patch of land trying frantically to rebound after the demolition where some grass was growing. They got the kids off the horse and they let Kit graze there. Then spread their blanket out on the rocks that overlooked the canyon and the river below. The kids were amazingly resilient. They laughed and played with Ripper, leaving Vince and Erica to chat in the sunshine. Vince and Erica sat down on the blanket and embraced. They couldn't get enough of each other. The months away had left them incomplete, and now, together again, the two halves were whole. "So," said Erica gently, "how did you and Dex survive this mess?" I hate to leave you hanging there in the story, but that's just how the book was written. It's not like I'm the author or something. So you just have to tune in next week to see what happened to Vince and how he survived this horrible catastrophe. In the meantime, I have Lisa Bedford here to talk to us today about survival looting, so to speak, from homes that were affected by the disaster. Lisa was always the mom with a case of water bottles and blankets in the trunk of her car and famous for saying, just in case. 4 years ago, when she began to see signs of a deteriorating economy, she wondered, is there a way I can be proactive and get my family ready for an uncertain future? The answer was yes, and that's when the Survival Mom was born. She's put her own research, mistakes, and successes together in her book because deep down, every mom is a survival mom. We all want the same thing, a safe, thriving family. You'll find hundreds of tips and strategies in Survival Mom for steering your own family through uncertain and uncharted waters as our 21st century continues to unfold. A great companion to the book is her blog, thesurvivalmom.com. It's a great site with so much wonderful information. I know I always say it, but I highly recommend you get over there. It's got some great stuff, so I guarantee you're going to learn something. Here is where she posts up-to-the-minute articles, weekly action steps, and the always popular instant survival tips. You'll find hundreds of articles on topics ranging from finances to food storage to videos and humor. If you can't get enough of Survival Mom, follow her on Twitter and Facebook. There are thousands of other moms out there just like you. So head on over to thesurvivalmom.com and say hello to Lisa. So let me go ahead and welcome Lisa to the show. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much.
Today we're talking about scavenging. And in this chapter, Erica and Vince, they take the kids out into the destroyed landscape for a moment of family time. Erica and Vince ride over the charred remains of homes and gardens to reach a quiet place to talk. Lisa, as a survivor in this world, what are going to be some of the key items that you would scavenge from homes?
Well, I'll tell you, I've been working on a nonfiction book myself, and I know I'm going to be touching on scavenging. It's something that I would approach very, very cautiously. And I've given it a lot of thought, actually. And one of the reasons that I approach this topic very cautiously is that if my family was miles away when some disaster hit, and we know we have stored food in our home, we know what we have in our home, and we arrive maybe weeks later to find that people have scavenged our home, that would be devastating to us. Devastating. And so I would, first of all, just every scenario would have to be just carefully assessed, because with scavenging, you're going to be competing with other people for whatever is in that house, whatever is in that old, destroyed home, building, whatever. You're going to be competing with other people. I mean, unless you don't see anyone from miles around, and you haven't, for a number of days, there are going to be others just like you who are looking for water bottles, who are looking for food, who are looking for, weapons, boxes of ammo, anything like that. And those people, they could be better armed than you. They could be more fit than you. And let's face it, they could be smarter than you. Maybe they have been, kind of casing the joint, and they're kind of, off in an area where you can't see it, and they have their plan put together. And now here you come along and you're going to scavenge. So my biggest concern is, number one, you need to make sure that no one is going to be coming for whatever is in that building. Number two, you need to be aware that there's competition out there, because in a world where resources have suddenly become very, very scarce, that automatically, instantly increases the value of just about everything out there. So that is kind of my general observations and how I feel about scavenging. And so I'm not real comfortable by encouraging people to, because one person's scavenging is another person's looting.
That's true.
And so there are a lot of little tricky issues there. I don't think that just because, you're walking down the street and you see a home, you think it's open for scavenging, and you can take what you want.
Right.
So
It's the moral dilemma between, like, in our society right now, obviously that is wrong. And you're not
Mhm.
going to go into other people's house and take things. That's just so, morally unthinkable from somebody from my standpoint. Now I know others are more
Right.
desperate and would do that. But at that point, everybody's like, well, you got to get what you need. You got to get what you need for your family and this and that.
Mhm.
So it is that moral dilemma over, is it right?
It
Like,
is. It
what?
is. And I think that sometimes when people just, there are a lot, Sarah, there are a lot of big talkers
Hmm.
in the survival and prepper niche. I hear it. I mean, I've been hearing it now for 7 years, and they talk big about what they're going to do. And they talk really big about how they and their neighbors have these plans set up where they're going to shoot people on sight. And, a big concern of mine is, well, did your morals, did your ethics, did your Christian beliefs suddenly vaporize just because now you're in this new scenario where you feel justified no matter what you do? So I know this isn't, part of, the topic we're going to talk more about, a little bit about scavenging, but
Right.
I think that one of the toughest things for people who have always lived by a strict moral code for themselves is just numerous scenarios that come up where they're going to have to examine, what do I believe in my core?
Right.
Do
And
I
that
feel
was,
like I'm accountable to a higher authority? And right now, I don't have answers for that. They're just there
I
are going
know.
to be so many dilemmas out there. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, that was one of the biggest moral dilemmas I had with my book
Yep.
is I was raised as a Catholic. I'm a Christian, and you turn the other cheek and you help people. And so I have never, like, I shoot and things like that, but to actually turn and pull a trigger on somebody else, I don't know if that was just one of the biggest moral dilemmas that I really wanted to bring to light in my book was, how could you do it? Could you do it? I mean, how much is that just going to rake your mind over and over and over when you have to make those decisions?
That's right. That's
So,
right. Well, going back to scavenging, let's assume we're going to assume a whole lot of things. We're going to
right,
assume, those competitors, armed competitors, and groups of armed, marauders are not out there.
right.
You wanted to know just about what items that you would scavenge, and I would just say anything that has value to you or might have value to others. And that could be any number of things. Human nature never changes, does it, Sarah? And I think that even in this world that you're describing, where things are just broken down and destroyed, people will still need the fundamentals, water and food and shelter and so on. But we also have that spirit in us, where every once in a while a little luxury is amazing.
Right?
And I remember, I think it was Fernando Aguirre, whose website I believe is The Modern Survivalist. He wrote a lot about living through the Argentinian economic collapse. And he said, just having a lipstick to give to someone,
Right.
just having a bottle of just really small things. And all of a sudden you feel human again. And so for that reason, I would, some things that maybe I would think trivial now with survival, I would say, is that something that's going to make someone feel better about themselves? Is that going to be something that someone would value for reasons I don't understand? And if so, and if it's just laying there in this destroyed building and there's, I have no other worries, I would take it just to use as barter or just to, maybe establish relationships. Sometimes just giving someone something small or giving something to their child. You feel like you've made a new friend. You have this new ally. And in the world that, you're describing in your book, allies are going to be very important.
Yeah, for sure. And imagine, if your husband brought you back a little necklace or a little something special, you'd feel awesome about that. And I didn't even think about those kind of items.
Well, in that movie, Eli, the Book of Eli, there's one scene where they bring a little travel bottle, I think, of shampoo to a woman.
Right.
And she's showering and she's shampooing and it's like,
and conditioner, real conditioner, right? Like hair conditioner. I would be
there's going to be so much in a scenario, in a world like that, or just a terrible earthquake, that you've written about, where you just want to feel human again. And it
Right.
might be just those little small things that will go a long way toward that. So I know we talk about scavenging food and water and flashlights and all of those kinds of things. But if it were me, I would not overlook some of those trivial items, that might seem trivial, that could come in handy in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, it could be an emotional game changer right there.
That's a good way to say it. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. So now what kind of concerns would you have when you're using these scavenged goods? Like it could be, you were talking the people could be smarter. Well, it could be some kind of a setup or something in that area.
Right.
So.
This is what I'm asked a lot of times, Sarah. Well, what do I do about this scenario? What do I do in that scenario? And anytime right now, most all of us are living in pretty good, conditions, and we feel pretty secure in our little worlds. When you have a difficult dilemma right now, what do you do? Well, you try to look at this dilemma from different sides. What are the pros? What are the cons? What are the long-term effects that my decision could have? And you make the best choice, the best decision that you can right then based on what you know. That will continue. So here you are, you're in a scavenging setting, and you might look and say, okay, there's this food. I'm not sure how fresh it is. I am not sure, how long it's been here. You make the best decision you can based on what you know at that moment. And so as far as concerns go, I would just say, well, one concern is this item safe to use? Is it safe for me to bring back to where I'm staying? If it's something that's leaking, well, I don't know. Do I really want that, that container of insecticide? It's going to come in handy. It could come in handy, but do I really want to bring it back to my home? I don't know how it's going to contaminate. So just little things like that. I just think that just my immediate safety would be my first concern about using scavenged items.
Yeah, and then look for. With the cans, we're looking for bulging. We're looking, canned food. You're looking for bulging, rusting, those kinds of items.
Yeah, if it was something that was canned, like canned food, I will say that heat is going to be has a major detrimental effect on food. And so if the can appears to be safe, there's no leaking, there's no bulging, there's no rusted seams, what is inside is probably going to be safe to consume. It will not have the nutrients. I just wrote about this today, actually, on my blog. It won't have the same amount of nutrients. It's not going to, it will have lost flavor. It will have lost color and texture. And if you can imagine mushy peaches, canned peaches.
Yeah.
But probably it's not going to kill you just because it's old and just because it got hot. And you'll have to just case by case, basis.
Yeah, we experimented in canning potatoes a couple years ago. And the little ones came out really good. The little ones that still have the skins on them. But the big ones that I had taken the skins off, and then some of them, they always float to the top. Well, those ones on the top were just, I don't know, funky colored. So I need to do more research into my potato canning. But I wasn't trusting that, just because of the color of the ones on top.
Well, you're very, very smart to be doing all that experimenting now. Where you're not going through fields looking for, potatoes to dig up.
Right. Yeah, that's the purpose of the garden, and that's really my passion is in gardening, and then learning what edibles are out there in nature for us. I went through some medical issues where they put me on all these medications, and I'm an athlete, and it made me feel horrible. And I was like, there has got to be a better way. So that's really where my inspiration for wild foraging and stuff and learning how to naturally heal came from. So, yeah.
That's very good.
I'd rather be able to scavenge from nature than from old houses and whatnot. So
I agree.
So there's going to be old gardens around, though, and these can be a killer place to scavenge from the old gardens, because they are not going to get too marred with earthquake damage. I mean, they would, but plants will survive. They'll rebound. So you agree that this is going to be a valuable resource, And then why is that? Like, what can we do with those even if we're on the move?
Right. Well, I think it's a huge advantage to be able to identify the plants that are in a garden. I mean, you could be walking through, what used to be someone's backyard, and if you don't know what a tomato plant looks like, you don't know what the leaves of a sweet potato plant look like, you don't know what parsley or basil looks like, you wouldn't even know to stop and
That's
see what
so
you could get that would
true.
be edible. And so, even just for that reason alone, it's good enough reason to just start your own garden. And okay, this is what a cabbage plant looks like. This is what an artichoke plant looks like. So you recognize edibles just from the get-go. So of course, anything that you can pick, I would suggest also to look around for small hand tools. Little spade, I forget the little claw thing. I mean, I use that a lot.
Right.
Some of those hand tools could come in handy, for more than just gardening, and they'd be lightweight. They'd be easy to pack in your bag if you wanted to. So, and also a lot of times gardens will have different kinds of fencing around. And so if you are, if you're living nearby, or if you have a camp up, set up nearby, you might be able to get, different kinds of fencing and different kinds of construction materials from a garden area. A lot of times, farmers and gardeners put those things in place.
Right. We sure do, because the deer are so hungry this year.
Exactly.
That's a great point too. And I love the point about the tools. I didn't even think about that. But whenever we go back to the garden next year, no matter how meticulous we've been trying to put away everything, oh, here's our hoe buried in the ground or whatever, and that's a great point about finding those little tools that are always accompany the gardens. I didn't even think about that aspect. That's a great idea. So I've thought about how you could dig up the actual plant and take the plant with you. I mean, as long as you can grab enough of the root ball to take it with you, you might as well.
That's a great idea. And in areas where people have been typically grow gardens, there are just some parts of the country where pretty much everybody has a garden of some kind or another. And, if you are trying to get to a safer location, that would not be a bad place to go, because not only would people be there who know how to grow things, and if they're still there, you might be able to work out a deal, I'll pull your weeds for you if, you'll just let us, camp out in your backyard. But, I think that the gardens, Sarah, is really a really brilliant strategy, for someone who's trying to survive some kind of extreme scenario.
Right. And it's not something that people usually think about for some reason, but they would be out there. A lot of people have their backyard gardens now. So if you could find those plants, I mean, that would be your ace in the hole. So
I would think so too.
So let's talk about seeds. Do you preserve your own seeds currently?
I have some, yes. I have a number of packets. I keep them in just a cool place in the house. I just, right now they're all in just individual little, very small paper envelopes,
right.
They're labeled. But yes, I mean, if you are not able to carry the produce with you, and you eat what you can, and some of it's going to, different kinds of vegetables really do need to be either dehydrated or maybe cooked, but the seeds can come in handy. And so I think that would be something of very high value to take with you.
Right. And then if we were on the move, we could just, preserve them. You'd have to do the best you can and just try and get that moisture out of them and then not moisturize them again. Because the seeds are going to be precarious to try and carry around and keep cool. But, man, it would be worth it.
It would be worth a try. And especially if you could get numerous seeds, that could. And a lot of times when you come to these old gardens, there will be many plants. In fact, maybe most or all of them, Sarah, that have gone to seed.
Right.
In which case it'll be really easy to harvest the seeds. It'll be really easy to find, old dried up cucumbers that are just laying there, and you can start picking the seeds out of them. So my first strategy would be to look for plants that have already gone to seed, and those will be the easiest ones to harvest.
That's true. And nature has a way of preserving its own seeds. Like you say, finding the old fruit on the ground would probably be your best bet, because nature takes care of it how it knows how to do it. Right. That's a great point, because there's so many different methods for every different plant, and to know them all and be able to learn all that is just a mass of knowledge. So being able to find the old fruit might be your big ticket there, and I didn't consider that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, awesome. I'm really happy about the information we got here from talking about our scavenged goods. It's like you say, it's a moral dilemma, and it's something that I think people need to think about in terms of their morals versus what they'd be willing to do.
I agree.
All righty. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you very much. It's really an honor to be included in this.
All right. Thank you very much for being here with us, Lisa. We were having a little bit of a technical problem with our Skype connection there at the end. That's why we had to kind of cut it short, because we were cutting in and out. So apologize for the abrupt ending. So now let's go ahead and get into review time. It's time for review time. Got an opinion? I'd love to hear it. Go ahead and give me your 2 cents on Day After Disaster or the Changing Earth podcast. Head on over to Amazon or iTunes to give me your 2 cents. Today I don't have any more iTunes reviews, so I'm going to go ahead and do 3 more of my Day After Disaster reviews. So my first review that I have here is a 5-star review from Charles Carpenter. And it says, I usually don't like catastrophic themes. Day After Disaster was an interesting read. I usually don't like catastrophic themes, but I like that the main character could think outside the box for survival. I also like her moral thoughts and actions and not being afraid to be judgmental in dealing with the bad guys. I like her references to God. If anyone has been in a life-threatening situation, that's the entity to whom you will make an appeal. I do agree that the writing should have been edited more, but I can understand that this is a first effort and may not have had a professional editor. Keep the sequel coming. Nancy Carpenter. Well, thank you very much, Nancy. The fact that, Erica could think outside the box and was resourceful was something that I really wanted to put in there. I guess I just loved MacGyver when I was younger, so I had to make her into a little MacGyver there in the first story, and that's what you'd have to be doing in a survival situation, is really opening up your brain to the possibility of things you can build. I'm always amazed. There's a website. It's called Instructables.com. And they have so many projects over there that you could work on and just do it yourself everything, basically. And some things like make your own lightsabers and, just crazy stuff that you're like, why would you ever need that? But it's a lot of fun to check out. And they have a lot of practical things as well, don't get me wrong. So, cool site, Instructables.com. So anyway, thank you very much, Nancy. So now I'm going to read a review from Yana. And I'm not going to say her last name because I don't want to destroy it. And I actually know Yana pretty well. She's my friend and more like family. So I don't want to do that and embarrass myself in front of Yana. So she says, like a survival guide with a beautiful story. And I actually loved this review. I use it a lot on Pinterest because it's a great review. Day After Disaster is a science fiction book that I would not normally pick at the bookstore. Oh, by the way, Yana's from the Czech Republic, so her English skills are a little bit half. I guess I shouldn't say that, but I decided to give it a chance, but still was doubting if I can enjoy it. Well, shame on me. Sarah did an absolutely outstanding job describing details, how to fix, build, butcher, grow things, and protect people that not many sci-fi authors do. The beginning was a bit slow for my taste, but when it picked up, I was very intrigued by the story. It is a realistic look at a catastrophic event that we would not have the power over, and I related to it so much that I started thinking what I would be doing in a situation like this. Unfortunately, I don't think I would live a day if this happens to me, but thanks to Sarah, I got some new tricks in my sleeve. I would love to see this book turned into a movie if kept as real as the story is. I look forward to reading her next book in the Changing Earth series. And honestly, I was a little scared to get this review because Yana assured me that she was going to be brutally honest in the review. And I can tell you that it's not a type of book that she usually reads, so I was pretty honored that she gave me such a great review and thought so highly of my story. So my last review that I'm going to read today is by Kindle Customer, and it says, my favorite books are long ones that don't seem long because... My favorite books are long ones that don't seem long because the pages melt away under the pace of the story, and this was definitely one of those. We're seeing a lot of social criticism through literature these days, across all genres, and I think this book definitely contributes to that trend. Movie-wise, this kind of story never goes out of style. I see it as being sort of like The Hunger Games meets Day After Tomorrow. So that was a cool review to get. I thought it was a little bit more Mad Max too, I guess, the story. But I appreciated that review as well. That was a 4-star review. And I always love the feedback. Like I've been telling you all along, it's great to hear as an author, what parts really are jiving to people and what parts aren't. And how they think it relates to modern literature and things like that. So that's really interesting to see. So I always appreciate those reviews. And remember, Day After Disaster makes a great gift for Christmas, which is coming up. So Without Land is now out. So if you know somebody who has the book, loves the book, the second one's out. So you can go ahead and get that as well. And it helps me out for my Christmas season as well. So thank you very much for listening. I can't wait to have you back next week. Dr. Prepper or James Stevens is going to be back with us, and he's going to talk to us a little about first steps that we should take in the event of a catastrophe and what we should have prepared for if such an event were to occur. So I want to go ahead and thank you once again for being here. Can't wait to have you back next week. We'll see you then. Until next time, remember, dream, survive, thrive.
Thank you for joining Sarah for this episode of the Changing Earth podcast. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Day After Disaster at www.authorSarahFhathaway.com. If you love this podcast, please head over to iTunes and let everyone know by leaving a review.